Hi, I'm Rose Kingsley. Don't go anywhere. Profiles will be coming right up.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Today's guest is opera great turned jazz great Rose Kingsley, who's taken her 4-octave range from performing with such greats as Luciano Pavarotti and Placido Domingo into the world of jazz, pop, and blues. After a recent performance at Birdland Jazz Club here in New York City, Rose was dubbed by one music critic as the female Sinatra. After a short break, I'll be back to welcome singer Rose Kingsley to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. I'm Mickey Burns. Over her long and successful career, Rose Kingsley has shared her talents with 3 U.S. presidents. In the early 80s, Rose trained at NASA in Houston to be the first singer to be part of a space shuttle mission. However, the Challenger disaster in 1986 put an end to Rose's space opera dreams. So join me now as I welcome singer Rose Kingsley to Profiles. Opera great Rose Kingsley, welcome to our show Profiles.
Oh, thank you, Mickey. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time.
So have I.
You've been an opera diva, we're going to call it, most of your life. But I was interested to learn what originally made you gravitate to opera.
I started as a ballerina.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. When I was 3 years old, my mother took me to dancing school. And by the time I was 7, the dance teacher told my mother, that's going to be a ballerina.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And my father, of course, said, no, you don't want that as a career. You're going to be a lawyer. And I went, blah, blah, blah. Then at 14, I had a scholarship to American Ballet Theater.
Wow,
and
that's it. That's
he
the
knew
one.
that was the end of going to law school.
Oh, sure.
So I did dance with the Royal Ballet in London. And then I danced with the Metropolitan Opera.
Wow.
I did ballet with them. And that was my real introduction to wanting to be an opera singer, being on stage with greats.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm a Jersey girl.
You are?
Yeah, born in Newark.
And you left us, now you live in Palm Springs,
I'm
someplace
in
out there.
Frank Sinatra's
Where he used to
area.
live.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, after many years of performing in the opera, how many years did you perform there? Many years.
Many years, 30
With such
some odd
greats
years.
as Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo. You've taken, currently, your 4-octave range into the world of jazz, pop, and blues.
Yes.
What was the main reason for you to leave the world of opera?
No, I think once you're an opera singer, you always are. I still have my opera chops.
Yes.
But I've added a new genre.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I've just added a new genre.
You've expanded.
I've expanded my life. I've always, there was a part of me that before I sang opera or seriously studied opera, I did some Broadway growing up. I did Summer Stock, I did Funny Girl, I did Fiddler on the Roof. And that was a part of me that enjoyed doing that too. And then I became an opera diva for most of my life.
Sure.
And then about 5 years ago, I was sitting in with a friend of mine in Palm Springs, who was a great jazz saxophonist. And he asked me if I'd do something, and instead of doing something operatic, I did a jazz tune, and he almost fell on the floor. He said, I didn't know you could do that. And sitting at the piano that night was Bobby Corwin, who was Johnny Mercer's pianist and collaborator for 20 years, and there it was.
And
we
the rest, as they
collaborated.
say,
is history.
And another path. Now, your current show, which you will be performing at Lincoln Center.
Right.
I
lived there for many years.
And the show is called Sinatra and Mercer, Too Marvelous for Words. But my question is, I read somewhere, I believe, did you not perform with Frank Sinatra at one point?
I did.
Where was that?
In 1994, I was very fortunate. I was the first opera singer that Bob Hope had on his Desert Classic show in Palm Springs. It's right before the Desert Classic.
I remember it well.
You remember?
Oh, sure.
And I was on the show with Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope, John Denver, Vic Damone.
Oh.
It was an evening I will never forget.
Sure.
And
What
it was
a thrill.
fabulous.
Rose, you once said opera is passion.
Yes.
Today you're singing jazz and blues, and you went on to say, jazz and blues gives me more freedom to express myself as opposed to opera. How so?
In opera, first of all, you're dealing with a 70 to 100 piece orchestra.
Wow.
You are dealing with other singers. You're
Sure.
dealing with a chorus. And you have to be totally correct. If it's a dotted eighth note, you sing a dotted eighth note. You don't do a dotted, you don't make it a dotted quarter note or a half note.
You got to be right on.
You have to be right on or else you're going to lag behind.
Oh.
So everything is very, very
Regimented.
and
Yeah.
precise. Now, what I'm doing now, oh my gosh, if I feel like I want to hold the note for another 5 seconds, I can do that. And I do it because I feel it. It's my feeling. And I put that same feeling into my jazz and into singing the Great American Songbook.
Sure, and I'll talk about the songbook in a second, but you have what is known in music as a 4-octave range.
I do.
For our viewers, explain to us what that is, and is that something that you're born with, or is that something you learn along the way?
Well, first of all, everybody is born with a range. Everyone, I believe that,
Yeah,
and as
yeah,
a voice
yeah.
teacher, and I've taught for many years, everybody has a certain quality. It's like a vocal quality is like a fingerprint. So I don't have your quality, nobody in the world would have your quality, nor would anybody have my quality.
Yeah, yeah.
So when people say, oh, I can't sing, yes, you can sing. It's all about technique. And you can, I've worked all these years to get a 4-octave range.
Okay.
But I believe that you can train people to do
Really?
that.
So you weren't
Absolutely.
born with one?
No, I think everybody's born with certain capabilities, and maybe it's not maybe it's a 3-octave range, maybe,
Okay.
but I believe that everybody has the capability to get to.
Are you still working on yours?
You better believe it.
Okay.
Every day. And I say that because
man.
the great Vladimir Horowitz used to say in his 90s, when I don't practice for 1 day, I notice. When I don't practice for 2 days, my family notices. And when I don't practice for 3 days, the world knows it.
Boy, that's interesting.
And that's true.
Wow.
So you need constantly.
You have to hone those skills daily.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
And you also need someone to listen to you, because we as singers cannot hear ourselves.
Yeah.
It's true.
Now, Rose, you're often dubbed in many of my research articles that I looked at as the female Sinatra. And when I read that, I said, I wonder what it is about you that critics find comparable to Mr. Sinatra.
Well, we both tell a story.
I think so.
We both tell a story. And Frank took lessons and learned from the great Mabel Mercer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Who would sit at a piano.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was from London. And all she had was a piano and a stool. And she would just sing and tell a story.
Wow.
And he learned from her. And because of my opera career,
Yes.
in opera, we tell a story. I mean, we have to be an actor. I have to, I can't say, I love you. It has to be, I love you. So one night, I was out singing, and there was a very dear friend of ours who has been in the business for years. And he said to me, you are Mabel Mercer. He said, the way you sit there, and I didn't even know who she was at the time. And I researched her, and he said, you tell a story. You're an actress.
Now, when you're performing in operas, I always wondered about this. Did audiences always understand what you were trying to portray, or what, for that matter, what you're trying to say? And for another reason is operas are sang in different languages, which even
Correct.
makes it more difficult.
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
Well, up until 20 years ago,
Yeah.
you had the audience would come in with a libretto, and they would read, but nobody really did that. So as a singer and an actress, you had to make them feel and understand what you're portraying.
Yeah.
Today in major opera houses, right? There is the translation. Right above
Very
the
good.
theater.
But when you were on stage singing opera, did you ever say to yourself, I don't think they know what I'm singing here?
Yeah, I would say that, but then it was up to me to say, no, I'm going to make them understand.
It's an educational process.
Right, right.
Okay. All right, that's well said.
Yeah.
That's well said. Now, I got to see you perform not too long ago at Feinstein's 54 Below. You were great, and it's also a great environment. You must love working there.
Right, I did.
That night, your show was a tribute to the great songwriter Johnny Mercer. But for our viewers, tell us what some of his classics and biggest hits that he wrote were. Johnny Mercer.
Well, Johnny wrote over 1,400
Did he?
songs.
Oh my
He was
goodness.
very prolific.
Back in when was his time?
Oh, he started in the 30s.
30s, 40s, 50s?
50s, 60s.
Okay, into the 60s.
Into the early 70s. He won 4 Academy Awards, and he was nominated 19 times for Academy Awards. And I'm sure we know Moon River.
I love Moon River.
The Days of Wine and Roses.
That was a movie theme, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
And of course, Charade, Old Black Magic. I mean, it just
Old
goes
Black
on
Magic
and
was
on.
his too.
Oh.
But Moon River, is there any backstory to that song?
There is. Johnny wrote that, and the original, I think the original title is going to be Blue River.
Oh, okay.
And one night, Johnny was born in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, yeah.
And he loved Savannah.
Yeah.
And he was sitting one day, and he saw the moon on the river, and it became Moon River.
It became Moon River. Simple as that.
Right. But I've become, I guess, an expert in the sense that I love Mercer.
Sure.
So Mercer and I go like hand in glove.
Yeah.
And I love his songs. I mean, Come Rain or Come Shine, I'm Old Fashioned, Laura.
And you have 1,400 songs to choose from.
Exactly.
When you're doing a tribute to him.
And we're also very close with the Mercer family.
I know that.
Very close. We see Mandy Mercer a lot. She's going to be 80 years old.
Oh my goodness. Now, when I saw you at Feinstein's,
Yes.
between songs, you offered well-researched narrative.
Correct.
And fascinating stories regarding Mercer's music. Almost every song had a backstory to it.
Right.
And after I left that night, I said, you seldom see that kind of polished narrative on stage anymore. It's like a lost skill. Why don't, and it's so important and it's so effective, why don't more performers work at that?
Well, I think it's a different era now. As I said, the Great American Songbook is so prolific and so wonderful. But it's, the music today, forgive me for saying this, it's not what it was. The young people get out there and sometimes you understand it, sometimes you don't. It's, there are very few people today that really do that.
A lot of performers out there today should be calling you, saying, Rose, how can I do some better narrative for my show? Because it's just not about singing song after song after song.
No.
That narrative draws in the audience.
Of course.
Like you do.
Yes.
Now, we talked about, let's talk about the songbook, because the music you perform today, besides opera, comes out of the Great American Songbook. There's not a lot of people doing that material anymore. What is it about those particular songs that you find so rewarding to sing?
The lyrics.
The lyrics.
The lyrics. Definitely. It's all. Singing is basically all about the lyrics. Same thing in opera.
Yeah.
I mean, people who compose today, they haven't had the time to simmer that. I mean, it's been 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
But for someone like Johnny Mercer, he was a poet.
Yes,
so
he
he had reason to put lyrics to songs.
And every song had a story.
Yeah.
Now, your latest album, you have a new album.
I do.
It's titled, This Is My Life.
Right.
Regarding the album, you recently said, the songs all represent a part of my life.
They do. I chose 10 of my songs that I felt and I feel. We start with Here's to Life, which is beautiful, and then I go into Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Okay.
And It's Send in the Clowns.
Oh, Judy Collins.
Some wonderful, wonderful songs. Can't Help Loving That Man of Mine. You know. So every song I picked, I feel there's a reason I picked them.
In a recent interview regarding the album, you said, "I've experienced a lot of joy, as well as a lot of sorrow in my life."
Yes, I have.
I'm not aware of some of that, but what has some of the sorrow been in your life?
Oh, I've lost some wonderful people in my life. The great loves of my life I've lost. And, you know, you don't ask why at the time. And I've lost them all to death. And you don't ask why, but I guess there's a reason for everything. And it probably, you know, made me the ability to do this kind of passion, and you know, and when I'm singing, and yeah, there's a reason.
And you have the scars to prove it.
Oh,
right?
they're there.
Now, my favorite song on your new album is "One for My Baby."
Right.
That's a Johnny Mercer song.
Oh, it is.
That was made famous by Mr. Frank Sinatra.
Correct.
Over the years, though, in listening to that song, it's been sung mostly by males.
Yes.
I can't think of any other females. I remember hearing a rendition by Ella Fitzgerald.
Right. Correct.
Why did you choose that song?
I felt it.
Did you?
I felt there was another part of my passion. And Bob Corwin, who worked with Johnny for 20 years and wrote a lot of Johnny's music. Johnny couldn't play the piano. He could play with one finger. So Bob worked with him.
That's like I type.
Yeah. So Bob worked with Johnny, and he said to me, he said, when I started, Bob said the same thing to me, why do you want to sing it? Well, I said, I feel it. And when we started doing it, to this day, he said, Rose, I don't know another woman who can sing it like you. And he said, this is one of your best.
And the reason is very simple. And you recently said, I can't sing anything I don't feel.
That's right. And the fact that Johnny wrote the lyrics, and he's telling the story that he's just been brokenhearted.
Sure.
You know, and
Sitting
he's talking to a bar. And I have to tell you, I did a show in San Diego at a place called Martini's Above 4th, which is a lovely club. And I decided that at the last minute, at the other end of the room, because there's a stage, there was a bar. So I went up to the bartender and I said, you know, I'm going to sing One for My Baby. And I said, do you want to play along with me? I said, get everybody out of the bar. He said, fine. So it came time for my song. I went to the bar. He stood there polishing his glass, listening to me.
It's a Hollywood set.
And then he set me in a pink martini, and I sat there, and he really listened to me. He looked at me, and I said, I got a story for you. You know, and he just went.
And then you went into the song.
And the audience loved it.
I'm sure.
Because it really meant something that, you know.
They could feel it.
Right. You know, it's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. Set him up, Joe. I got a little story you ought to know.
How sad.
Really cool.
Oh, man.
Really cool.
I did want to mention that you have also performed for 3 presidents.
I have.
You performed for George H.W. Bush.
Did.
Gerald Ford, Gerald Ford, and Bill Clinton.
Yes.
You also performed for Prince Charles.
I did.
How did that play out?
Oh, that was very interesting. I had been in London singing, and there was somebody in the audience whose husband was a member of Parliament. And she approached me and she said, would you be interested in doing a concert for His Royal Highness and the Prince's Trust? And I said, sure.
How did you find him?
Very charming, and at the time I was only singing opera, and he loved opera.
I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, that you have a deep interest in space exploration. Is that true?
I do.
In fact, you were actually trained by NASA in Houston to be the first performer in space as part of a space shuttle mission.
That's true.
It never happened. Why so?
the Challenger incident occurred with Krista McCullough.
With the teacher.
Exactly. And they were picking, at the time, they were picking civilians for different reasons to go.
Yeah,
and I was approached by a friend of mine and who was a flight surgeon, and he said, I know how you feel about your interest in space. How would you like to be the first woman to fly, the performer, artist, he said, to fly in the shuttle? And I looked at him, he said, so what I want you to do is come over
to NASA
and start training with the guys, and you will be a test subject. But when we're ready to pick the first artist, you're going.
You're going,
So, okay, so I went over to NASA and started work. I trained in this shuttle simulator.
Right.
I trained, they have a pool there.
Yes,
that you train weightlessness, and you do all kinds of maneuvers. And then, unfortunately, the challenge.
Would have you liked to have gone?
Oh, yeah. I would have been frightening, but I would have gone.
You would have.
Just like when I land in the plane. I'm frightened, but you do it.
But you didn't, and there was no space opera for Rose.
Oh, but I did write a space opera.
You did, but you didn't get to go to space.
Oh, no.
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
But you did write a space opera.
I did. Did you know that?
No. You were inspired by this whole operation.
Well, actually, it was a little after that. A friend of mine his name is David Meckler, he was had his PhD not only in aerospace sciences, but in composition.
Yes.
And we got together one day and we decided to write an opera about an actual mission. Apollo 14. Anyway, we wrote the opera and it debuted at New York City Opera in 2002 in their New Works division, and it got rave reviews.
That's quite an accomplishment. That's quite an accomplishment. As busy as you are today, how do you find time to run the International Opera Institute for aspiring classical vocalists?
I do. At one point, I had over 300 students. I don't have them anymore because I'm busy with my career singing. It's time to go back on the stage. But it's exciting for me to pass on the years of knowledge that it took me to get to where I am.
Right.
And I have about 6 of my students today are on major opera stages. And I love teaching.
And you're passing this on to
I get more nervous when my students get on a stage than I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Now, aside from voice, because obviously all your students have the chops, or else they wouldn't be with you, right? What's the most important thing that you like to share with them, the students, other than the voice?
Well, I think one thing you can't give a student is the passion to really want to have it. That's something that's very difficult. I wanted it, and you kind of feel the students who will say, I will do anything for this. But then sometimes you have a student who has the voice, but it's like, I don't know, maybe I want to do it. That's not fun. That's not fun for me. Give me somebody who wants it, and I'll give them a voice.
It means everything to them. And
yes.
they're willing to sacrifice everything.
Everything.
What's the best piece of advice, Rose, that you ever received?
Probably, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Okay. And your best show business memory over all the years that you've been a professional, what would rate up amongst the top thrills?
Oh, there've been so many. But I guess being around Bob Hope and Frank Sinatra, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
I guess not.
And of course, I have to, give thanks to my husband, who's now my manager and producer, who's amazing, supportive
24/7,
and has given up a lot of his life to make me realize my dreams.
When you reflect back years from now on your career, life and career, what do you hope your legacy might be?
That I had a passion to do what I needed to do, and I wanted to share it with the world, to share the gift that God gave to me, to share with the world.
And you continue to do that.
I do.
I want to say one more time, Rose Kingsley, thank you so much for stopping by Profiles today. Best of luck with your latest album release, and it's called, the title is This Is My Life. And continued success with all you do, and break a leg at Lincoln Center.
Oh, thank you, Mickey.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Regarding her musical transformation, Rose Kingsley recently said, "Opera is a passion. However, jazz and blues gives me more freedom to express myself." And she went on to say, what makes a great singer is not necessarily the voice, but rather how you tell the story. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Mickey Burns. Thanks for tuning in.